What the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Have you ever considered that your birth date might hold hidden secrets about your prosperity? Sounds far-fetched, right? But what if I told you that certain biblical numbers appearing in your birth date could reveal potential for wealth, success, and even spiritual destiny? The number 7 has always been viewed as a symbol of spiritual perfection and constancy. It appears repeatedly in the Bible. God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th, showing that the cycle is only complete with it. 7 represents faith, discipline, and persistence, and when this number appears in your birth date, it carries a powerful message that prosperity doesn't depend on luck, but on consistency. How many times have you believed you just needed one lucky break to change your life? How many times have you thought winning the lottery would solve everything? The truth is, most people wait for something external, when true power lies in the persistence of small habits repeated every day. Think for a moment about how many goals you've abandoned prematurely. Perhaps you started a diet with all your energy, but seeing no results in the first week, you gave up. Maybe you started a course or a business, but at the first sign of difficulty, you stopped. What if you had continued? Wouldn't your life be completely different today? This is where the number 7 comes in, as a reminder that wealth and success are built by those who don't give up when everything seems slow. Napoleon Hill experienced this firsthand. Early in his career, as a young journalist, he had the opportunity to interview Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men of his time. Carnegie challenged him to dedicate 20 years of his life receiving nothing in return, only studying and interviewing successful people to discover the secrets of prosperity. Imagine hearing that. 2 decades of work with no guarantee of return. Who would accept such a deal? Most would have given up before even starting. But Hill, inspired by a vision of something greater, persevered. That's the spirit of 7, believing, staying firm, even when the whole world says it's impossible. Now think about yourself. How many times does your financial life feel like a desert? Bills arrive, your salary seems insufficient, and the anxiety of not seeing a way out leads many people to give up on their dreams. It is in these moments that the lesson of the number 7 becomes vital. Modern science proves this. Studies in behavioral economics show that people able to maintain consistent saving habits, even in very small amounts, accumulate more wealth over a lifetime than those who bet on big windfalls or immediate returns. Financial persistence generates tangible results. And there's something curious. The number 7 is also present in the overcoming stories of people who have completely changed their destinies. Think of Cristiano Ronaldo. Since childhood, he trained hours longer than his colleagues, repeating the same movements until exhaustion. While many gave up, he maintained discipline. Today, he is considered one of the greatest players in history. It wasn't luck, it was daily persistence, the true meaning of 7 in action. But of course, persistence also has a painful side. It demands facing frustrations, criticism, sleepless nights, and the feeling that nothing is changing. However, it is precisely at these moments that most give up, and only a small minority continues. And those who continue reap the rewards. Perhaps you've wondered, why can I never change my financial life? The answer may lie right there. It's not a lack of talent or intelligence, but giving up too soon. If the number 7 is in your birth date, see it as a calling. It doesn't guarantee wealth in itself, but symbolizes that your mission is to persist beyond what seems reasonable. It doesn't matter if it's saving a small amount every month, studying continuously even when there's no immediate result, or insisting on a project that no one believes in. It's this constancy that opens the doors to abundance. Every time you resist the temptation to give up, you strengthen not only your discipline, but also your faith. And when faith and persistence unite, wealth becomes an inevitable consequence. The number 3 has always been associated with perfection and fullness. In the Bible, it appears as the ultimate representation of the divinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's a number that carries the idea of balance, harmony, and creation. Napoleon Hill, throughout his research on success, brought a very similar triad, almost a reflection of this symbol: idea, faith, and action. It's not enough just to think about something. It's not enough just to believe, and it's also no use acting without direction. It's the union of the three elements that builds extraordinary results. How many times have you had incredible ideas but never got past the planning stage? How many projects were born in your head but died without ever seeing the light of day? This happens because most people get stuck in just the first stage, imagination. Others even take a step further, nurture faith, visualize the dream realized, but get stuck when it comes to acting. And there are still those who act without planning, who run after any opportunity without truly believing in what they are doing, and therefore end up frustrated. The triad of success only works when all three are aligned. If you observe your own financial life, you will notice this. How many times have you told yourself that you would organize your expenses, save a portion of your salary, start an emergency fund? The idea was there. Maybe you even believed it was possible, had faith that in a few months you would already have an accumulated amount. But then came the action. An impulse purchase, an unnecessary expense, and I deserve it, after a stressful day, and everything crumbled. This is more common than it seems. Research shows that more than 60% of people do not have clear control over their finances, and most admit that they spend more than they should on things they didn't need. The result? Anxiety, debt, and the constant feeling of chasing your own tail. The number 3 comes as a powerful reminder. It is necessary to align thought, faith, and action towards the same goal. If you want to achieve financial freedom, for example, start by establishing a clear idea, almost like a project. Define specific goals, such as, I want to save 10% of my salary for the next 12 months. Then nurture faith. Visualize that future. Imagine how you will feel when you look at your account and see that you have succeeded. And finally, act. Create mechanisms to automate this process, such as scheduled transfers, or even set small personal challenges, such as going a week without buying anything that isn't essential. When the triad is complete, the result becomes inevitable. And there are impactful examples of people who have lived exactly this. Think of Walt Disney. He had the idea of creating an entertainment empire that would enchant children and adults, something that seemed impossible at the time. He deeply believed in this vision, even when everyone doubted. But he didn't stop there. He acted tirelessly, faced bankruptcies, rejections, and criticisms until he transformed that idea into one of history's greatest legacies. Idea, faith, and action. The perfect reflection of the number 3. This number in your birth date is almost like a mark that says you have within you the ability to balance the 3 pillars, but you need to be careful not to live in only one of them. It's a kind of warning that your destiny of prosperity depends on the alignment between what you think, what you believe, and what you do daily. And this message is even confirmed by science. Studies show that people who write down their goals, believe in them, and create specific routines to achieve them have up to 42% more chances of realizing them than those who only dream. The number 3 is, therefore, a call to conscious action. It doesn't talk about haste or about waiting eternally for the right moment. It asks for balance. Have you noticed how many times your financial life has fluctuated because you were only living one of the stages? Maybe full of ideas, but without acting. Maybe full of faith, but without planning. Or maybe full of action, but running in circles without a real objective. 3 is the meeting point. When you understand this, the feeling is not just of hope, but of clarity. the clarity that there is a practical path to transform your life. The number 12 carries within it an immense symbolic weight. It appears in the scriptures as a sign of order, leadership, and multiplication. There were 12 tribes of Israel, 12 apostles of Christ, 12 gates of the New Jerusalem. This number represents the call to guide, to influence, to be a reference within a group. When 12 appears in someone's birth date, it's as if life is pointing to a destiny of leadership, not in the sense of dominating, but of multiplying results and transforming environments. Napoleon Hill reinforced this idea precisely by teaching that no one achieves great achievements alone. He said that true success is born from alliances, from groups of people who unite efforts, thoughts, and energies, something he called a mastermind. Now think about your own trajectory. How many times have you tried to solve everything alone? How many times have you carried financial, professional, or personal problems on your back, believing that asking for help was a sign of weakness? Most people live in this cycle of isolation. They think that no one would understand their difficulties or that depending on others would make them less capable. But what experience and even science show is the opposite. Research in the field of social psychology reveals that people who share their goals and have a support network have up to 65% more chances of achieving them than those who try to walk the path alone. The number 12 is precisely the reminder that multiplication only happens collectively. A powerful example of this is the very story of Thomas Edison. He is remembered as the inventor of the light bulb, but what is almost never said is that Edison did not work alone. He had an entire team testing thousands of filaments until electric light became a viable reality. Edison led, inspired, and directed, but the multiplication of the work came from the group. Without the 12 present in his life, without the spirit of collective leadership, perhaps the light bulb would never have left the drawing board. And here comes an important reflection. How is your network today? Do you have people around you who really lift you up, or are you surrounded by people who drain your energy and make you doubt your ability? Often, the reason why a person does not prosper financially is not a lack of talent or effort, but the company that keeps them bound to patterns of scarcity. Hill said that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. If you are in circles of pessimism, complaints, and excuses, it is only a matter of time until you absorb that same pattern. The number 12 also carries a practical lesson. Leadership is not about commanding, it's about influencing. Leading means being an example, inspiring by what you do. In your work, in your family, in your relationships, do you transmit prosperity or do you transmit fear and insecurity? Have you noticed how a single person can change the atmosphere of an entire environment, for better or for worse? The number 12 is this calling. If you were born with it marked in your life, your mission is to be the person who elevates, who builds bridges, who unites, and who inspires. But make no mistake, leading requires courage. It's about taking responsibility when hiding would be easier. It's about taking the first step when everyone else is afraid. It's about holding on to faith when others only see hardship. Napoleon Hill experienced this firsthand when he faced harsh criticism from those who dismissed his work as utopian, impossible to encapsulate success into applicable principles. Yet, he gathered brilliant minds around his vision, built networks, and multiplied knowledge that continues to transform lives to this day. That's the power of 12. When you connect with others, you create something you could never achieve alone. And perhaps that's the most challenging question this number poses. Who do you choose to be in the collective? What do you contribute to your group, your family, your community? If your birth date includes 12, it's a reminder that your destiny is to influence. and that the wealth you seek won't come solely from individual effort, but from your ability to impact the lives of others. Because ultimately, the true leader isn't the one who accumulates wealth for themselves, but the one who multiplies prosperity for those around them. 40 has always been linked to periods of trial and transformation. In the Bible, it symbolizes profound tests that precede significant changes. Moses spent 40 years guiding his people through the desert. Jesus fasted for 40 days before beginning his mission. And Noah endured 40 days of deluge before the ark rested on solid ground. 40 doesn't speak of destruction, but of refinement. It's a reminder that no great destiny is handed to you on a silver platter. You must navigate the process, endure the difficulties, and emerge stronger on the other side. In personal and financial life, this translates to those desert moments we've all experienced. Who hasn't gone through a phase where nothing seemed to go right? Bills piling up, opportunities failing to materialize, doors slamming shut one after another. It's in these moments that many give up, believing they weren't born to prosper, or that success is a privilege reserved for a select few. But the number 40 reminds us that these periods are necessary trials to test our faith, our discipline, and, most importantly, our resilience. Napoleon Hill lived this precisely. After publishing Think and Grow Rich, the book that would become a cornerstone of self-improvement literature, he wasn't immediately recognized or acclaimed. On the contrary, he faced criticism from the press, financial difficulties, and even political persecution at various points in his career. There were periods when he lost everything, times when it seemed his career was over. Yet, it was during these desolate periods that he wrote some of his most impactful works and solidified the teachings that continue to transform lives today. Hill's journey through his 40s wasn't just literal in terms of years of hardship, but symbolic. He had to endure pressure, trials, and losses to be reborn in an even stronger position. And this has a direct parallel with anyone's life. When you try to reorganize your finances, for example, it's normal to go through 40 days or 40 weeks of discomfort. It's about cutting unnecessary expenses, saying no to immediate pleasures, foregoing impulse buys. It feels like a desert, a painful sacrifice, but it's precisely this discipline that prepares you to live in abundance in the future. Without the test, there's no transformation. Modern science confirms this age-old truth. Behavioral psychology research shows that the average time to create or break a habit is around 60 days. But the most significant changes begin to be seen from the 40th day. It's almost as if this number is inscribed in human biology itself. We need a cycle of effort and repetition to reconfigure our minds and prepare the ground for lasting results. The challenge posed by the number 40 is to embrace the process without complaining, without succumbing to discouragement. Imagine if you decided today to live 40 days without murmuring about your financial life. Instead of saying, "It's not possible, I can't, it's not for me," replace each word with gratitude and practical action. 40 days of recording everything that comes in and goes out of your pocket. 40 days of thanking you for what you already possess, however small it may be. 40 days of choosing to plant instead of despairing. What would your mind and your bank account look like at the end of that period? This number isn't just a distant biblical symbol, but an invitation for you to transform trials into strength. It teaches that the desert isn't punishment, but preparation. It is in the silence of trials that the mind strengthens, the character consolidates, and the true power to enrich oneself is born. 40 marks the end of a cycle of pain and the beginning of a new life. Those who understand this don't see difficulties as barriers, but as an essential part of the journey to prosperity. 8 is one of the most potent symbols of prosperity and renewal. It appears in the Bible as a sign of new beginnings. After the deluge, 8 people emerged from the ark to rebuild humanity. On the 8th day, a new cycle begins. When 8 is present in your birth date, it carries a clear message. You have within you the ability to transform endings into beginnings, losses into opportunities, falls into the impetus to fly higher. This number is also known as the symbol of the sideways infinity, showing that abundance is limitless when you learn to begin again without fear. And here's a truth many ignore. Most people dread starting over. The fear of losing everything, of going back to zero, of facing judgment, paralyzes entire dreams. How many times have you felt trapped in a job or a situation simply because you feared what would happen if you took a different path? This is a dilemma that statistically affects millions. Recent research shows that more than 70% of people remain in careers they don't love, simply out of fear of financial instability. But 8 is precisely the reminder that new beginnings are the gateway to abundance. Napoleon Hill experienced this reality in a striking way. At one point in his life, he lost practically everything. His reputation was attacked, his financial situation collapsed, and many believed he would never recover. However, it was at this breaking point that he gave rise to a new, more mature and wiser phase. He started over, and from this new cycle came teachings that impacted millions of people around the world. 8 manifests itself precisely like this, as the strength to rise when everyone thinks you won't have the courage. And there are modern examples that prove this. Think of Steve Jobs, who was fired from the very company he founded. For many, that would have been the end. But for him, it was a new beginning. He created Pixar, returned to Apple years later, and transformed the company into one of the largest on the planet. The number 8 is this energy of cycles that never end, only renew themselves, always with the chance of becoming even greater. Now reflect. How many new beginnings have you refused out of fear of losing security? How many times have you clung to something that no longer made sense, just to avoid facing the unknown? The number 8 in your life is a call to trust that every ending is just a new beginning. If you are willing to break with old patterns, you can access a stream of prosperity that seems boundless. And here's a challenge. Try looking at an area of your life that seems to have come to an end. It could be a relationship, a project, or even a way of handling money. Instead of lamenting or clinging, allow yourself to start over. Dedicate 8 weeks to this new cycle, focused on planting something different, whether learning a new skill, creating a new source of income, or establishing a habit you've never been able to maintain. On the 8th weekend, you will realize that starting over isn't weakness, it's your greatest strength. The number 8 teaches that infinity only manifests itself to those who have the courage to begin again. Your birth date may carry powerful numbers that reveal paths to prosperity, leadership, new beginnings, and transformation. Each number we've explored is a reminder that wealth isn't just luck, but the result of faith, action, persistence, learning from trials, and the courage to start over. Recognizing these patterns in your life is realizing that you have within you concrete tools to create opportunities, overcome challenges, and multiply results, whether in the financial, personal, or emotional realm. And if you want to take the next step on this journey, there's another video waiting for you. It will take you up another step in your wisdom evolution, showing you how to apply these principles even more practically to become 1% better than you are now. Each insight is an opportunity for continuous growth, and that's precisely what differentiates those who only dream from those who truly transform their lives. Thank you for taking the time to watch and absorb these lessons. I'll be waiting for you in the next video.